Thank you so much, Brett. It's my great pleasure to present my work today at LSC 700. And in today's talk, I will first give you a brief overview about how we can use YouTube as data for study science communication. I will then use one case study I'm working on which look at the community that spread most viewed, highly viewed science videos. And in this case study, I particularly focus on the issue of diversity. And I hope through this case study, it will motivate you to think about what diversity means in online digital communication and what is the current status of diversity of science communication online. So why study YouTube for science communication? Raise your hand if you like watching YouTube videos here. Awesome. Same as many of you, I'm also a fan of YouTube videos and I watch every day. And in fact, there are 2 billion monthly active users on YouTube. It's the second largest social media platforms to Facebook. And if we look at who are the users on watching YouTube videos, actually they include both male, female, and they are across all age groups and across different income level and also across different regions. And YouTube is not only a channel in US. Actually, it is localized to 91 countries and is accessible in 80 languages. So then, among a lot of the videos spread on YouTube, there are many science videos, including distorted ones. So on one hand, we see that conspiracy theory about climate change is spreading on YouTube. So in this video, the guy talked about how the government is manipulating the weather weapon to spread misinformation about climate change in order to manipulate people's mind. And on the other hand, we see that scientists are trying to educate us about what is the science of climate change. And both videos receive a lot of views. So although there are many science videos on YouTube, scholarships are still very scarce about study science communication on YouTube. For instance, it is little known who are producing those science videos on YouTube. And it is also understudied what type of science information is spread on YouTube and the effects of those videos on public participation. So why it matters for us to study science communication on YouTube? So we want to know is whether YouTube as a platform, whether it provides us new opportunity to educate science information and to engage people in scientific discussion, or actually it's another digital platform which becomes the playground for misinformation and manipulation. So this is the agenda of today's talk. So first, I will give you an overview of how we can use YouTube as a very valuable data source for study science communication. And secondly, I will use a case study to demonstrate how we can understand the community who spread those very highly viewed science videos by focusing on the issue of diversity. So let's get on to the first thing. So how can we understand YouTube as data for science communication? So this is a video where Leonardo and Barack Obama discuss the impacts of climate change on presidents' daughters. So it's a very interesting video which there is a marriage between science and entertainment which talk about the science issue. And one type of data we can have for this type of thing is we can analyze the video as the unit of analysis for study science communication on YouTube. But we can also analyze the channel, like this channel, Entertainment Tonight. So both the video and the channel can be the unit of analysis for your research. And then there are also different types of data on those YouTube videos. So the red circle represents the metadata. For instance, the number of views, the number of likes, dislikes, and the number of comments. So these are the metadata we can use to study YouTube data. Yes, please.
I've always been curious on, like, there's always way more views than likes or dislikes. So what do you call the in-between? Like, it's like they viewed it, right?
Yes.
They didn't dislike it or like it.
Yeah, I think this is an excellent question. So this is actually true. We find that a lot of the videos are viewed, but then whether people try to engage with that view is where you can see whether they click likes or shares or dislikes. So it's more a difference between I try to look at the scientific information versus whether I begin to engage into that. So this is where we can see the difference. And it's a very interesting topic. We can think about if we want to measure popularity of a science video, whether we should use the matrix of view or we should use the matrix of likes, dislikes, or number of comments. So these are very valuable metadata, as you say. We can think differently about how do we really measure the popularity of science video, or how can we measure maybe controversy of the science video. So this is where the metadata can already give us a lot of rich information and interesting topics to think about. So besides the metadata, there is also very valuable data, the text data. For instance, we can study about the video title, and we can study about the channel name and the video description there, and also people's comments. So these green boxes are all the text data we can study to understand about a video. And besides this metadata and text data, we know that video is consisting of a lot of the images. And in last week's talk, Karen talked about how we can use color coding to study images. So image data also becomes a very valuable source if we want to understand why some of the videos receive a lot of views and likes and dislikes. So image is another type of data we can study about YouTube. So we see that there are a lot of variety of data types if we think about the YouTube. And besides the data types, another thing very interesting from YouTube is it also allows us to think about the time dimension in our research. So I would like to point out, especially YouTube provides us a very useful source for us to think about doing longitudinal research. For instance, we can see that this is a comment which is left 3 years ago by the user. And then we see there are comments left 9 months ago. So if we want to check people's reaction to a video over a cross time span, YouTube is the place where it allows us to study how people interact with the video across a time span rather than at a single time point. So this is also the time dimension is very rich from the YouTube. So the traditional ways of studying YouTube data is what I call go, click, and download. So we hire a lot of students or research assistants to go to the YouTube page and to click the download. And then this is how we collect the data. So what is the problem of this way, or the potential limitation of this traditional way of go, click, download to collect the YouTube data? So first, you need to think about what search word to use for your topic. Different search word gonna return different results. And then the second problem is what I call user customized results. So the result, you put in a search word, the YouTube video you see is different from the YouTube video other people see, because YouTube is tailored the algorithm to your preference. So different people can see different things. So if you use this traditional way to download, you might get a result which is customized to your preference, but which is different from the others. And then another very limitation is through this traditional way, it's very high cost on the labor. If you want to download thousands of video, how many people you're gonna hire to let them download so many videos? And then if you wanna, let's say you wanna collect the video across different time points, then you need to use a lot of labor to do this work. So this is the kind of the limitation of the traditional way of collecting YouTube data. And then what I want to point out is there is new tools for collecting YouTube data. And I want to introduce one way of how we can collect YouTube data rather than go click and download. This is what I call the application programming interface. So what is API? How can we use API as a computational tool to collect the YouTube data? So this is how it works. So as researchers, we can send a request to the big YouTube platform dataset. So we can imagine that YouTube database is like a librarian with a lot of the information on the internet. And then after the researcher send a request to the Google YouTube database, the Google YouTube database will give you the data the researchers want. So when you send a request, this is an example of how you can send a request. So this is a code line which says you want to ask the librarian, the YouTube database. You will tell them, okay, this is the search term I want. And then you will tell them how many videos you want to collect. Because you don't want to collect like 10,000, so many videos, so you can set the limit of the amount of data you want to get. And then you can also tell the YouTube database how do you want to get the video. For instance, the order by view count allows you to obtain the video based on the number of views. But then you can also order by, the API also provides us to order by rating or relevancy, which is to what extent the YouTube video are relevant to the user. So you can use different way to order, and usually view count is a more objective way because it's not going to be influenced by who is sending out the data. And then in this request, you can also tell the YouTube database what's the time span you want to collect the data for. For instance, you want to collect the data from 2006 to 2009. So you can also write what type of data you want to collect. So this is how you send a request. And then after you send this request, the database will return you a bunch of variable data, very valuable data set. So you can obtain the data set from this YouTube API will give you the metadata information of the video. It will give you the transcripts of the video, and it also can give you the comments of the video. And for this process, you don't need to have so many people sitting there manually download. You type in this code line, and then it can give you a lot of the videos with a lot of the information you want very quickly in a couple seconds. So what is the advantage of this way of using API as a new tool to collect the YouTube data? So first, you can put multiple search words to search at the same time. And secondly, very important, it is not based on customized view. It's not like I am the user, and then I search this video. It will give me the information, which is different from the other researcher who search, because I can order by view counts, which is a very objective measurement of what are the videos which are viewed a lot in that time period. And then it definitely saves a lot of labor and cost. And you can collect metadata, different types of data, in a very efficient manner. And also another advantage is you are able to collect data going back to 2006 when YouTube was founded. So this is the advantages. But there are also considerations of using the API. The API costs money, but not a lot depending on the size of data. You can always start from small. For instance, if you want to collect 1,000 videos, that's free if you want to collect the 1,000 videos per day. And also different requests, because we see in the previous you can request for metadata, text data, image data, different requests cost a different amount of money. So as researcher, we want to do a little bit of accounting of how to optimize how many data we want to collect and what data to collect as the starting point of research. So this is a new tool where we can use to efficiently collect YouTube data. So besides this new tool, I want to point out two research design issues we need to think over when we try to collect the YouTube data. So the first design issue is we want to push us to think about what search words should we use to collect videos. And in my research, this is the procedure of how I decide the search words. So we first have an initial search word list from existing scholarships. For instance, if I want to study climate change, what are the scholars use as the search words? And then starting from there, I will use this initial search list to collect a sample of video transcripts based on this initial search list. And then after I collect a sample of video transcript, I can apply language model. Language model is basically, simply to put, is those computational model which gonna look into the transcripts to tell you what are some of the words which are very correlated, highly suggestive for the search term. So this will provide you some new candidate words for the climate change topic. And then, as researchers, we need to read all of these new candidate words, which force us to think about whether we need to refine our search word list or not. So this is an iterative process where we always start from the initial search words, and we collect some transcripts, and then we apply some language model to come up with new search words, and then we refine our dictionary. So this is one way we want to think about how to develop the best, type of search words where we want to collect video on a science topic. And then the second thing I want to point out, a research design we need to think about is how can we sample YouTube data? What are the different types of sampling methods we can use? So first, we can just use random sampling across a time span. Let's say from 2006 to 2020, I can randomly select for every month, I can randomly select a bunch of videos based on view counts and then collect all the videos from 2006 to 2020. So it's a random sampling method based on time. But then we can also use a different type of sampling method. Which I call the snowball sampling method. So what is the snowball sampling method? So you start from a bunch of videos from your random dates sampling method. And then for each of the video, we can see the video description, right? And then in the video description, they will mention what are the other science content you should look at. So they point out what are the other YouTube videos they recommend you, the YouTuber recommend you to look at. So these videos gonna become the second layer, which I gonna collect the data. And then from these videos, you again look into who are the YouTubers they point out in their video description, and then you collect this data. And you can go this snowball sampling process by many times. So this way of snowball sampling will allow us to know who are the YouTubers mentioning each other's video, and what is the community that is spreading the YouTube science videos. Yes, please.
I have a question about the search terms.
Yes.
So if we put search terms on API,
Mm.
what does YouTube give you? Like videos that have titles that include search terms, or as transcripts?
Yeah, usually it's like in everywhere, like in transcript, not just in titles. It's kind of, as long as it's in the transcript, they will give you these search words. Yeah. Thank you. So this is the sampling method we can think about. You can use random sampling method if you want to get YouTube videos. But if you want to get the community who cite each other, you might want to use the snowball sampling method. So the takeaway from this overview of how we can think about YouTube as data for science communication is we see that, yes, YouTube provides rich data for study science communication. And there are new computational tools which allow us to collect data more efficiently. But we still need to be mindful about how to develop the search words and how to sample YouTube data. So with this takeaway, I'm going to dive into one case study I'm working on. So in this case study, I'm looking at the community who spread most viewed, highly viewed science videos. And I focus on study the concept of diversity. So the motivated question for this case study I'm doing is, is YouTube a platform for increasing diversity in science communication? So looking into the literature on science communication and diversity, we see that many scholars found that there is not much diversity in science communication, particularly in offline setting. For instance, scholars find that there is gender and racial inequality about the scientific knowledge production. For instance, in the first study, they found that people's sense of belonging to the STEM field differ in gender and race. They asked a bunch of undergraduate students who majored in STEM major, and they found that female and people with color have less sense of belonging to the STEM. And they also asked students in the second study about their perception about male, female, and successful scientists. And they found that people tend to think that male, the characteristics of male, is more similar to a successful scientists. And also male students think that the male scientists, the male gender is more likely to be scientists. So not only in people's perception about what is the profile of a scientist, we also see that in the faculty hiring network process, there is also a gender and race inequality. For instance, in this study, the author asked about a lot of faculty members across over hundreds of institutions in the US. And they found that female graduates' placement are worse than male. And this is particularly, this kind of hierarchical structure is true among the elite universities. And also, scholars find that they look at who the media tend to reach out. And they found that media tend to reach out to male scientists than female scientists, although both female and male scientists are all very willing to engage with the media. So in this offline science communication, we do see that there is problem of diversity not only in people's perception in the faculty hiring process, but also in the media outreach. However, there has been relatively little empirical research on representation of science in the social media. Maybe gender and racial equality still persists in digital space. And a very recent study by this author finds that the representation of women and ethnics in TED Talks are unequal. For instance, after they study a lot of TED Talks on science topics, they found that more than half of all talks are given by white male. And the talks given by female speakers received more negative comments. So going beyond the literature on science communication regarding diversity, there has been extensive debate about the issue of diversity on social media. So some scholars point out that social media might provide a space for more diversity. For instance, it's more likely for minority voices to be heard. And also, it allows a space for citizens to post information, particularly like YouTube platform. It allows those amateurs to talk about their knowledge. And also, some scholars say that social media also allow people to expose to different networks. For instance, you will talk to people not ideological similar to you in politics. It allows you to cross-talk to other people who share different ideology. However, the other group of scholars point out that still there is echo chamber going on, and the evidence is consistently found on Facebook, on Twitter, people who are like-minded talk together. And not only of this echo chamber, which I call the rich only talk to rich, people with similar ideology talk to each other, there is also another problem, which I call the rich get richer, the power law. So they found that some websites in the web receive extreme popularity, cited, linked by a lot of people, while majority of the websites in the internet receive few links. Different from these two groups of scholars which debate about diversity on social media, a group of scholars talk about the extent of diversity depends. So first, they found that people who are more interested in politics and who use multiple sources of media platform are less likely to be in an echo chamber. So what they point out here is, if people tend to use multiple sources rather than just use Twitter or Facebook, but if they use multiple digital platforms, they are more likely to break out of the echo chamber. And the second, scholars also speculate that people are more polarized regarding political issues, but maybe are open in many other topics. So the goals of this study is to first explore the meaning of diversity in the digital space. And second, I want to respond to the debate about diversity on social media, but with a focus on science issues, which is understudied. So how do we think about the meaning of diversity in the digital space? As we see from the literature, we can think about diversity in two dimensions. So the first is the profile diversity, and the second is network diversity. So profile diversity means that you look at who are the people, who are the scientists, who are the ones spreading the science information. Are they tend to be on certain gender and a certain race, or they are a diverse group of people? So this is the profile diversity dimension. And the second dimension of diversity is the network diversity. Scholars mention a lot. And in this network diversity, the first is we want to ask whether in the internet its rich get richer. For instance, as I mentioned, only very, very few websites of only very few people speak out in the internet. Or it is majority of the voices are shared by many people. So this is the first part of the network diversity. And the second part is we want to look at, the scholar point out about echo chamber, is do rich only talk to the rich, or actually they talk to each other, talk to outside groups. So this is how we can think about the two meanings of diversity in the digital space. So in this study, in order to understand the two dimensions of diversity, I have two research questions. So first, I ask, among the community of highly viewed science videos, how do they cite each other's video? So this question tries to look at the network dimension of diversity. And the second question I have is, who are those that are cited very frequently by other YouTubers in their videos? So this question looks at the profile diversity dimension. So to study these two research questions, this is my data. How do I collect the data? So in my data collection, I focus on 4 science topics. So the first 3 are more politicized topics: climate change, GMO, and vaccine. And then the fourth topic I look at is human genome editing, which is an emerging kind of technology science topic. And to collect the data, I use the YouTube API. And I developed the search words, and then I designed the sampling methods. So these are the search words I developed. And it goes through the process as I introduced before. So in these type of search words, I try to, for instance, take the climate change, for example. I want to include search words which are neutral, and also search words such as chemtrails, climate hacking, which are used by denial of the climate change. So this is we want to kind of think about the search words to balance both groups' view. So these are the search words of all the 4 topics I use to put into the YouTube API. And then for the sampling design, I first, because in my research question, I want to understand the community who spread those mostly viewed science videos. So first, I start from random sampling method. So the first kind of the bunch of video I collect are using the dates, random dates from 2015 January to 2019 November. So every month, I collect the most top viewed videos. And this is the base of my data collection. And then from those base groups, let's say 1,000 video for each science topics, I obtain the data of their video description. And in the video description, they talk about who are the other YouTubers they suggest the user to look at. So for all the children which are mentioned in their video description, I collect these data. And then I go 10 steps in depth. So this way, I'm collecting both the parent video and all the children and the descendants, which is through step by step. So for the data I collected, I first collected metadata like the number of views, number of likes, dislikes, and the number of comments of each video. And I also collect the video title, video description, and the video transcripts. And also very importantly, because I do the snowball sampling method, this is the parent's video ID, and then I also collect all the children videos which are cited in this parent video. For instance, these are the two columns which I use for me to understand who are the descendants of the parents' videos. And I also collect the channel information, for instance, who produced this video, and the channel description and the channel subscription number. So this is the amount of videos I collected. So for each science topic, I collect around 2,000 to 3,000 videos for this data analysis. And we see that from this number of videos, there are around range from 400 to 800 channels that produce these videos. And then the last column is the percentage of videos that cited other videos. So because we learn we have the two columns, one is the parent video, the second column is the children video. So we see that for each science topic, roughly around 60% of videos cited other videos in their video description. So now I'm going to talk about the measurements on diversity. To measure the network diversity, I look at the citation pattern. And then to measure the profile diversity, I do content analysis to look at who those channels are. So first, let's say for each climate, for each science topic, this column is the average number of videos cited by each video. And this is the median and max. So if you will take a first glance of looking at these 4 science topics, we see that in some videos, they cited a lot. They cited 4 videos. But then in some other videos, they cited 43 other video links. So there is kind of a skewed pattern. Like for some of the video, they tend to cite more other YouTubers. But for some video, they just don't cite other YouTubers. To really understand the citation, who cites who, of the YouTube community, I try several measurements. So for each channel in our data set, we developed several ways to measure its influence in the community. So first, for each channel, I ask how many videos cited this channel in their video description. And this I do for both include self-citation, because sometimes the video who cited this channel are actually the video produced by this channel. And then the second measurement is I ask how many channels cited a channel in their video description. So I do 2 levels. The reason I do 2 levels of measurement is because a lot of the videos are produced by the same channel. The second measurement will allow me to learn about what are different type of unique channel that cited a video, cited a channel. And I do this by manipulating these 2 columns because I have all the video ID and I have all the children ID, which allow me to know from the video ID, we can know the information of who the channel are. So these are the 2 types of measurement for me to measure whether a channel is an influencer or not. Yes, please.
Clarifying question. So you're only measuring YouTube videos that are suggested in the text description.
Yes, in the video.
Versus the ones that are suggested, like, you watch this, so this might
Yes.
interest you. Versus sometimes in videos, people say, watch my next episode about math, you know?
Yes.
So you're only looking at textual description.
Yeah, I only look at the video description which are posted by the YouTubers. And the reason is because I want to know, my research question is about who are the community. It's about community citation. And those recommended videos, sometimes you measure at the end what the YouTube as a company recommend.
Okay.
Yes, so for me, the video description part is a more direct way for me to understand who the other YouTuber, this YouTuber want to cite. And from these two measurements, for my preliminary analysis, I identified the top 10 channels for each science topic to identify 60 influencers who are cited a lot in the other video or by other channels. And for these 60 influencers, this is the median subscription number. And we see that a lot of people do subscribe to these influential channels. And also, these 60 influencers were cited by over 5,000 videos across the 4 science data sets. It's almost as they cited by 50% of the videos, these 60 people influencers. And then the citation is for me to measure the network diversity, try to understand who cites who or who are cited a lot. But then the profile to understand who are the profile, who are these 60 influencers. We look at the profile picture, the cover photo of the channel, and also the channel description. So we look at several aspects. So first we look at them to ask whether this channel is a mainstream media, such as PBS or TED, or it's just an individual person. And the second, I look at the gender by looking at the profile picture, and I look at the race. And then I look at the authority by looking at whether the YouTuber talk about the occupation, and also whether they hold a PhD degree or not. And from the channel description, I look at to read the description to see whether the channel is more about try to educate people or try to entertain people. And also, I found that some of the channel in their description, they will talk about the purpose of my channel is to spread big value like peace, God, love nature, while some other channels in their description, they talk about, oh, this channel, I'm trying to talk about environment, climate change, or entertaining stories. So it's about whether it's like the channel purpose is they want to focus on big values or specific topics. So these are the ways we use to code these 60 influencers. Yes, please.
Yeah, I have a question on if you could clarify the gender and the race.
Yes.
Using the profile picture.
Yes.
Is this something that you then categorize, or is this something that
The researcher, like my research team, categorize that by looking at the picture. If they stated, if you look at the picture, like it's a female, or he is a female or a male, or sometimes the gender is not known because the picture is maybe just a cat, then the gender is not known.
What about like gender neutral?
Yes, we can call it gender neutral. If it's if it's like female and male, it must be a very obvious picture. Yes.
What about race?
For race, it's also like we look at whether it's like white or like just by purely look at the picture of the profile or look at the cover photo of those people who are here. But that's a very interesting question. We can talk about more. Yes.
How do you control for channels that are produced by larger companies? Because I know one of the larger trends in the last few years has been that because individual YouTubers, are limited in resources, it's always like now it's like bigger networks that have gone to YouTube who have more resources and can produce more videos and monetize those videos. So then at some point, did you control for big companies when you chose the 60 influencers, or how did that work?
For the 60 influencers, when I chose that, I based on citation, like who are the other YouTubers who cite them a lot. So these are the people who are cited a lot by other YouTubers. But I think you mentioned about a very important aspect is some of the YouTubers, they are like big corporation, their agency support them. And in my current content analysis, I didn't capture that. And what I only capture is mainstream media or individual, because sometimes it's very hard for us to know whether this individual are really sponsored by an agency or not. But one way actually in future to tackle your question is, we can look at the video description of a channel. If a channel tended to cite Amazon a lot in the video description, or they cited other big companies, then it could be a proxy for us to guess there might be corporation at the back who's supporting that. So we can look at this is, again, the video description, all those links there are very useful for us to answer your questions. Yes, please, Becca.
Do you know if in YouTube, if there are citations and other video channel links, if that has like an SEO benefit to the channel? Like, is there any motivation for people including lots of links within their descriptions to other channels to like boost the searching of their own?
Yeah, I think one situation like I see from these 60 influencers, some of the influencers in this group, they are cited a lot, and I find that it's actually PBS Digital Studio is creating a space to bring a lot of the influencers together, and then among those people, they always cited each other. So it's more like this bunch of, we won't say it's echo chamber because it's not based on ideology if we look at them, but then it's like they are a way of promotion. Yeah, and cool, so let me get into the results.
For the sake of time, if we could hold our questions until the end, so Kaiping has enough time to go through the results, and then we can have Q&A after.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. So we know that we want to examine the profile diversity and the network diversity. So first, let me go to the network diversity. What I find is still the rich get richer. So for each channel in our data set, I found that only very few channels got cited by a lot, while majority of the channels are not cited. For instance, this is a network picture where I try to plot who cited who. And then those big dots represented those people, like the 60 influencers, who are cited a lot by other people. And we see that majority of the YouTubers, they are very small dots, which represent they are not cited a lot by others in the video. So from this network picture, we can clearly see that this is the group which dominates the YouTube community citation. And then here is another picture I want to show is the distribution graph. So the x-axis means the number of video citations. And then the y-axis means the number of channels which receive this amount of citation. For instance, for the number of channels in our data set which receive 100 citations, this is how many channels. Let's say there are around 250 channels which receive this amount of citation. But then we see that for a very, very little channel, though, they receive a lot of the citation, like 1,200. And we see that this is a very skewed picture because we see that for majority of the channels, they receive very little citation, but there are some channels which receive a gigantic citation. So this is, again, another picture to show us that only very few channels are cited a lot. And this is from the vaccine topic. And it's also true for all the rest of the three science topics. And this is the x-axis, is the number of video citations a channel received. But in my other measurement, I also talk about the number of citations a channel received by other channels. And we see that it's, again, follow this skewed distribution, which means still those people, very, very few people are cited a lot, while majority of them are cited only by 1 or 2 channels. So this is the network diversity. We see, yes, rich get richer. And then the second finding regarding network diversity is I look at those 60 influencers to see who they cited in their videos. Do they really cite the people outside their group, or they are cited among themselves? So I found that those 60 influencers, if you look at who they cite in their videos, they cited each other's video rather than cited outside channels. So this one represents influencers. So these are the 60 influencers. We find that 20% of them don't even cite any other videos in their video. And then what about the rest 80% of the influencers? 75% of them cited among these 60 people, while only 5% of them cited other channels which are not the 60 influencers. So we see from this picture is those influencers, when they decide who to cite, they cite it among themselves, the 60 people, rather than they go outside to cite other channel. So regarding the profile diversity, let's first look at the gender and race. So among the 60 influencers, we coded their gender and race. And we find that from the profile picture or from the banner as long as the gender is shown. We see there are roughly similar proportion of female and male. And then for the race, we see from the profile picture, 34% or 25% of the YouTubers in our influencers, they are white. And there are a couple which is also the race not displayed. And then, what about the authority and the channel purpose among those 60 influencers? So we see some people mention about their occupation in their channel description. And we see there are roughly like 11% of them mention they are professors, psychologists, or they are doctors. And then 8% of them mention they have the PhD degree. And for the channel purpose, we see that 33% will talk about big values as the purpose of their channel. And what about the educate and entertain? A large proportion, a certain amount of proportion of the channel purpose is about, I want to make a news story to entertain people. And I want you to think about this picture is, some of the video, there is a certain amount of video which doesn't talk about occupation, PhD, or channel purpose. But then, from those that talk about these aspects, these will show that it's not actually dominated really by the scientists or those who hold a PhD degree. And a lot of the video purpose, a lot of the channel purpose is for entertainment. So how do we think about these findings? So first, we see that YouTube doesn't increase the chance of network diversity for science communication. We see that only very few channels are cited significantly by others, while the majority of the crowd is not cited. So it's still the rich get richer. And also, we find that those highly cited videos, those 60 people, they talked among themselves rather than talk to the outside group. However, the profile finding, which suggests that YouTube provide a platform for a more diverse composition of profiles for science communication, at least for those people who show their gender and race and channel purpose. We see both male and female, and we see a proportion of the video not just to talk about education, they talk about entertainment. So then, looking at the community that spreads these highly viewed science videos, we find that the purpose of this video is usually not about science, but more about food, entertainment, and politics. So go back to the question I asked at the beginning. Is YouTube a platform for increasing diversity in science communication? First, I want to say problems of communication on social media persists when we examine the YouTube platform. Rich get richer, and the rich only talk to the rich. Despite lacking network diversity, YouTube indeed provides a platform for diversifying who communicates science. However, I want to raise a caution of this profile diversification, because this profile diversification also brings new challenge for science communication. When we see that science communication is communicated through entertainment and politics, those channels who are the influencers are actually the channel who talk about entertainment, food, rather than science topics. So communication of science in digital platform might be more about communication than science communication. So if you like this talk and the curriculum, please click likes, shares, and subscribe. Thank you so much.